Good morning, I'm Kenneth Moten.
And I'm Janae Norman. Here are the top 5 things to know this Wednesday. Number 1, the 4-hour shootout in New Jersey's second largest city.
When the bullets finally stopped flying, 6 people were dead, including a police detective. SWAT teams and armored equipment filled the streets of Jersey City as schools were placed on lockdown.
The mayor says the 2 gunmen who were also killed targeted a Jewish grocery store. As a result, police across the Hudson River in New York City are now increasing security in Jewish communities as a precaution.
Number 2, the historic effort to remove President Trump from office. Debate will begin today on 2 articles of impeachment announced by House Democrats.
They claim the president abused his power and betrayed the nation and then blocked access to witnesses and evidence. The president fired back at a rally in Pennsylvania last night, calling the push for impeachment pathetic and vowing it will lead to his re-election.
On to number 3, a ruling on President Trump's border wall.
A federal judge in Texas has blocked the Trump administration from using billions of dollars in military funding to build the wall.
The judge sided with plaintiffs who accused the president of trying to take the so-called power of the purse away from Congress.
Number 4 now, a new lawsuit could change the college application process.
The suit filed in California claims the SAT and ACT are unconstitutional and demands the University of California stop using the exams as a factor in admissions.
Advocates claim the exams discriminate because richer students can afford to get help preparing for them. And finally, number 5, a private whiskey collection known as the largest in the world is going up for sale.
It includes nearly 4,000 bottles, some of them worth more than $1 million each.
The Colorado man who collected the bottles wanted to represent every distillery in the world. The collection is expected to fetch about $10 million at auction. Quite a collection.
But you know what's free?
What?
The ABC News app. As promised, Janae Norman is back here on It's Morning in America.
Here I am. Let's get right to the breaking news overnight about that shootout in New Jersey. 4 victims were killed, including a police officer.
It sounded and looked like a war zone. Some neighbors last night were still not being allowed back home. And the new headline this morning, the mayor revealing that the shooters targeted a Jewish grocery store.
That's now prompted the mayor of New York City, just across the Hudson River there, to boost security in Jewish communities, saying the NYPD is now on high alert.
This morning, new details on this terrifying gun battle in Jersey City, New Jersey. The chaos started at a cemetery where investigators say 2 gunmen shot and killed Detective Joseph Seals and wounded an officer. Authorities say the 2 men dressed in black then drove to a kosher supermarket, opening fire on more officers. This video showing a police officer shot on the ground as another pulls him to safety.
There it goes. There it goes again. As soon as I got back up, all you heard was another hail of gunfire.
For more than 4 hours, the gunmen kept firing from the market with high-powered rifles until they were finally killed by police.
Never before in my life. That was like a war zone. I mean, it wasn't just a little pistol. Those were big, big guns.
3 victims inside the market were killed. And now Jersey City's mayor says the gunmen targeted that Jewish market. In response, Bill de Blasio, the mayor of nearby New York City, announced added police patrols in the Jewish community, saying this tragically confirms that a growing pattern of violent anti-Semitism has now turned into a crisis for our nation.
My baby is okay.
Back in Jersey City, parents finally reunited with their children. 30,000 school kids had been placed on lockdown during the shootout.
It's my time when I was at school.
To be a part of this, and then our children got to be a part of this, it don't make no sense.
This morning, it's still unclear what led up to Detective Seals being killed by the gunman in the cemetery. Authorities say it may have started as an investigation into a murder over the weekend. Detective Seals is being remembered for his efforts leading the department, helping to get illegal guns off the streets.
Dozens and dozens of handguns he's responsible for removing from the street.
Seals leaves behind a wife and 5 children. Overnight, his neighbors left their Christmas lights off as a tribute.
I just pray that God looks after them. That's I hope for that. Excuse me, that's
New York's mayor says there's no credible or specific threat after yesterday's shootout, but he says more security measures will be announced today.
Now to the other big story on Capitol Hill, where debate begins today on the articles of impeachment. brought against President Trump. The president fired back during a campaign rally last night, blasting the charges as flimsy and pathetic. But Democrats are undeterred. They insist the president abused his power and betrayed the nation.
ABC's Serena Marshall joined us with the latest from Washington. Serena, good morning.
Kenneth, Janae, good morning to both of you. House Democrats announced they will be taking up those articles for debate and approval beginning much later today, around 7 p.m.
It's an announcement that's been made only 3 times before in American history.
Charging the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, with committing high crimes and misdemeanors.
House Democrats declare they will impeach President Trump, charging he abused the power of his office and obstructed Congress. On abuse of power, they charged the president ignored and injured the interests of the nation and betrayed the nation by abusing his high office to enlist a foreign power in corrupting democratic elections. On obstruction of Congress, they charged that Trump, without lawful cause or excuse, rejected every subpoena or request for evidence, the article declaring, in the history of the Republic, no president has ever ordered the complete defiance of an impeachment inquiry. Hours later, the president on the campaign trail reacting.
These 2 flimsy, pathetic, ridiculous articles of impeachment. This is the lightest impeachment in the history of our country by far.
Impeachment is an accusation of high crimes and misdemeanors, and a House vote likely to come ahead of Christmas. Democrats responding to critics who say they're moving too fast.
The argument, why don't you just wait, amounts to this. Why don't you just let him cheat in one more election?
In the Senate, where the president is eager for a full trial, live witnesses and all, not happening until after the holidays.
It'll be right around the time the bowl game's in.
Top Senate Republicans have also indicated they may not call witnesses, saying that they want to wrap this up quickly. Now, that goes against what President Trump says he wants to see during that Senate trial. Kenneth, Janae.
All right, Serena, thank you for joining us from Washington. Meanwhile, President Trump is also blasting the FBI after the Inspector General found the Bureau was justified and unbiased in launching the Russia investigation despite serious errors.
Last night, the president called some FBI agents scum and repeated the debunked claim that they spied on his campaign. Earlier, he took aim at FBI Director Christopher Wray for agreeing with the watchdog report, saying Wray will never be able to fix the FBI with that kind of attitude.
Attorney General William Barr also doubled down on his criticism of the report, suggesting the FBI may have acted in bad faith. And a former FBI lawyer repeatedly targeted by President Trump is now suing the FBI and the Justice Department after that IG report found there was no anti-Trump plot. Lisa Page is accusing the agencies of violating her privacy by releasing text messages she exchanged with former FBI agent Peter Strzok, criticizing Trump during the 2016 campaign. The lawsuit alleges the texts were illegally leaked to reporters, in part because the Justice Department was trying to get in good standing with the president.
The same day Democrats moved to impeach President Trump, they handed him a big legislative victory, agreeing to a revised trade deal with Mexico and Canada.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called it a victory for the American worker. She said the deal to replace NAFTA is infinitely better than what the administration initially proposed. Lawmakers added stronger monitoring standards for labor and environmental rules and removed patent protections for some prescription drugs. The Senate plans to take it up early next year.
There's an arrest in a mass shooting that left 12 people wounded in New Orleans.
The gunfire erupted 10 days ago. 21-year-old Stafford Starks faces a string of charges, including 8 counts of attempted second-degree murder.
He and another suspect were among the wounded. The second man is still on the run. Police say the shooting stemmed from a feud between the two.
Actor Cuba Gooding Jr. now faces more than 20 accusations of sexual misconduct. 7 more women have come forward claiming he groped, kissed, and forcibly touched them. The alleged incidents took place between 2003 and last year. Gooding is awaiting trial in New York City on charges related to 3 other accusations. He has denied all charges.
The airlines are expecting a busy holiday period. Their trade organization predicts 2.6 million people will fly the U.S. carriers each day from mid-December through the first week of January. That's 3% more than last year. The worst days to fly are likely to be the days right before and after Christmas. The TSA, by the way, says the Sunday after Thanksgiving was its busiest day ever.
I believe it. Well, coming up, the milestone for self-driving technology.
Why this butter truck
Butter
is making history. You better believe us after this.
Welcome back. Now to some news breaking overnight. A suicide bombing near a U.S. military base in Afghanistan. The blast targeted a medical facility being built near Bagram Air Base north of Kabul. Let's go across the pond to Julia McFarland in the London Bureau for more. Julia, good morning.
Morning, Janae. Yeah, that news has just come out. Bagram Air Base is the main American base in the country. It's just north of the capital, as you say, and the suicide bombing, it targeted this under construction medical facility that was being built to help support Afghans in the local area. 5 Afghans are reported to have been injured. No casualties so far, but the head of the provincial hospital says they are receiving treatment, and he adds that no coalition forces were injured in the attack. It's not clear if there were any foreigners inside the hospital. There are some international aid organizations who've been working nearby, but some parts of the hospital were on fire as a result of that bombing. No one has immediately claimed responsibility for the attack yet, although both the Taliban and ISIS in Afghanistan have been staging nearly daily attacks in Kabul, in the capital, and elsewhere in the country.
All right, let's move on to Pakistan now, Julia, where protesters stormed the offices of the country's leading independent newspaper, threatening violence and even calling for the paper's editor to be lynched. So, Julia, have you spoken with some of the journalists there? What are they saying?
Kenneth, this is a really, really important story. Just to lay a little background, the Dawn newspaper in Pakistan, it's one of the only really free media outlets in the country. It publishes news articles that can be critical of the government and is still, for now, free to do so. But they've come under increasing pressure, both from pressure groups and from the authorities. The military recently issued a clampdown and removed many of its newspapers from newsstands in cities across the country. But these protests recently have been really, really worrying. So they started after the newspaper correctly identified the origins of the recent London Bridge terror attacker as Pakistani, and this angered a lot of people in the country. There was this really angry, violent crowd that lay siege to the offices, preventing journalists from leaving. They had posters calling for the newspaper to be dismantled, and they also have identified journalists who work at that newspaper with their names and their addresses, calling for the death penalty for all of them. The newspaper editor, Zafar Abbas, he is an incredible journalist. He was recently in New York being honored by an award from the Committee to Protect Journalists, the Gwen Ilfil Press Freedom Award. Now, he's been unable to leave the country recently because his staff, they fear for their lives. A lot of these death threats are circulating on social media and are quite widespread. Pakistani authorities have said that they're going to look into that siege, but the CPJ is calling for more protection for these journalists and to protect press freedom in that country.
Yeah, Gwen Ifill, a very notable journalist here in the U.S. And Christian leaders in Iraq have called off all Christmas celebrations in solidarity with the protest movement that has seen at least 400 people killed by security forces over the past 10 weeks. How did they come to this decision?
Right, so Christians in Iraq have been going through a really, really awful number of years. Remember when ISIS overran Mosul, they carried out a horrific campaign against Christians in the country. Many of them had to flee their homelands in the north of the country. And with recent protests, the Christians decided to call off festive celebrations in solidarity with the loss of life in the recent violent protests there. The patriarch of the Chaldean Church in Iraq, he said, morally and spiritually, we cannot celebrate in an atmosphere of tension. It's not normal to celebrate our joy and happiness while others are dying. That just doesn't work. Now, what's happened is in a central Baghdad plaza, which has become very associated with the protest movement, there has been a big Christmas tree erected there, but instead of tinsel and lights, it's being decorated with portraits of the fallen. That is being done by protest organizers and Baghdad residents in solidarity with the Christian stance to respect and draw attention to the recent bloodshed. And it's a really poignant symbol of what the country is going through right now.
All right, Julia McFarland across the pond. Thank you. This morning, we're meeting not a girl, but a woman who's on fire, literally.
She's helping to build an army of women, one welder at a time. Here's ABC's Kana Whitworth with this morning's trailblazer at work.
It's very intense, but it's also very meditative. Metal is just so tough, and so you just like concentrate and focus all of your energy, and it kind of takes you away from everything else for a while. I am a welding instructor. Prior to working here as a welding instructor, I was working in manufacturing as a welder. I also did some artistic fabrication. I've been in the industry for about 6 years.
So tell me about getting into welding. What were you doing before?
I've had a really meandering path. I moved out to Utah and I worked as a wilderness therapy instructor. That's where I met my daughter's father. And when I became pregnant, I moved back home and I wanted to be close to my family.
You're the only female welder. How were you welcomed?
There were men who were really great at being allies, and there were other people that felt intimidated, which was interesting. A lot of things that I didn't expect.
Like what?
Well, I had the wheels taken off my chair. There were
Wait, somebody took the wheels off your chair to mess with you?
Off my chair to mess with me, yeah. So when I'm tapping this, I'm doing it on the edge of the metal, not over here.
So what does Lauren do as a welder? Welding is the process of connecting materials together through melting to form a strong joint. There are two types of welding. Pressure. That's when you use a combination of pressure and heat, and fusion, when you only use heat. The most common type of welding is electric arc welding, which falls under the fusion category. That's the kind of welding we most commonly think of when an electric arc melts base and filler metals together.
Chicago Women in Trades is a workforce development nonprofit. We have two programs. We have a technical opportunities program to help women get into the different trade unions. Then we also have our Women in Welding program to help women get jobs in welding. Typically, we alternate between classroom time and shop time. So we'll spend some time doing like math, blueprint readings, and then we'll be on the shop floor doing more of the hands-on skills.
Do you ever think in a million years you would know how to weld metal?
No, but I've always wanted to, and that's why I'm so beyond ecstatic that this program exists, because I took something I've wanted to do my entire life, and now I get to do it every day.
We're training women to work in a male-dominated profession that is often hostile. We want to change that. That's essentially, our goal is that we want to help change that culture. We want to help inspire people to think about things differently, and we're building an army of women. That's where change comes from. Sometimes it comes from the bottom up. It's grassroots change, and so it's about creating the camaraderie, creating the culture, the sisterhood, and building it up from the ground up, and trying to inspire that change.
Our thanks to Kana there, and just incredible women building this country.
Building the world, really.
Really the world.
Like literally.
With one
women birth the world.
Blowtorch at a time.
Yeah. Let's take a break, check our notifications.
Starting with a cross-country road trip that was smooth like butter.
Butter.
That's because this trip was part of a whole record-breaking of a big old truck, an autonomous truck, making its way from California to Pennsylvania. Land O'Lakes butter. They loaded it up.
Unsalted butter.
They set all the whatever they need to do with the doohickeys inside.
Less impressed because it was unsalted butter.
Right. It's got to be salted. Take salted butter. I'd be more definitely impressed if it was salted butter, because salted butter is good.
And here's one thing that even salted butter can't make taste good: Christmas dinner in a can. Everything you expect at the family feast packaged conveniently into a sad single meal designed for gamers.
Yeah, marketed to gamers because they can't be bothered.
Can't pull themselves away from the TV.
They can't get away from the screen enough, but they still want all of Thanksgiving dinner, including turkey and gravy and whatever else is in that gross mess there.
And we've all done this. Look around for our glasses while wearing them.
Oh, yeah, I did that once.
This adorable little girl does not want to hear her mom saying that they're on top of her head.
Your glasses are on top of your head.
No,
They're right there.
She's no, they're not there. I don't believe you. Don't believe you.
On top of your head.
I believe you. She's so cute. Hey, and heading to the mall to talk to Santa may soon be a thing of Christmases past.
You can now do a video chat with jolly old St. Nick, or at least his representatives, because Santa is busy, of course. For $35, a service called Talk to Santa offers a live online audience with Kris Kringle. The Santas sit in front of a backdrop. It makes it look like they're at the North Pole. The service has more than 300 Santas on the job.
They're at the North Pole.
In some of those videos, I don't see kids. Like, there are 3 adults.
No, I see a kid right there.
There were 3 adults.
Okay. It's like, first they're vetting.
Is there an age limit?
They're vetting the Santa, making sure before they talk to their kids.
I'm just saying.
Gotta make sure. You gotta know who your kids are talking to.
100%. 'Tis the season to put a little love in your heart, but employees at one real estate firm in Baltimore are finding more than just a little more love this month.
They're getting a whole lot of cash. Well, Gans has the story.
When it comes to holiday bonuses,
it's bigger than you expected?
they can go one of 2 ways, like Clark Griswold's.
1-year membership in the Jelly of the Month Club.
Oh, God.
Or like this.
It is life-changing.
It's the real-life holiday bonus for employees of St. John Properties in Baltimore that can afford them a real-life Christmas vacation, and then some. Ed St. John, the founder of one of the largest commercial real estate firms in the Mid-Atlantic, making this announcement at the company's holiday party.
You're all participating in a bonus based on the number of years of $10 million.
$10 million divided up among the company's 198 employees, each of them opening a red envelope with the amount of their bonus inside. The smallest amount, $100, awarded to an employee who was just hired and hadn't even started at the company yet. The largest bonus, $270,000.
I steer the boat, but they're the ones that run the boat. They're the ones that make the boat go. Without the team, we are nothing. We are absolutely nothing.
This gesture raising the bar in a year when holiday bonuses are already predicted to go up. A survey by Robert Half suggests 96% of employees can expect bonuses that meet or exceed last year's. Whether it's the Jelly of the Month,
Clark, that's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year.
or a hard-earned share in $10 million.
It's crazy. It's life-changing. Can't thank him enough.
Incredible. Several of those employees have said they are now debt-free thanks to this incredible holiday bonus. They're paying off their credit cards, mortgages, student loans. Family members are calling them. They're ignoring them.
Yep.
That's what's going down.
I don't blame them. Coming up, we can't get enough of Baby Yoda.
Why he's being used in a traffic safety PSA after this.
Here's what to watch out for today. The House Judiciary Committee starts taking up articles of impeachment for debate and approval. Tune in to ABC News Live at 7 Eastern for live coverage of the proceedings.
Also on Capitol Hill, the Justice Department Inspector General will testify on the report released Monday that found no political bias or improper motivations in the opening of the FBI's Russia probe.
And the head of the FAA is scheduled to testify to the House before the House Transportation Committee on the certification of Boeing 737 MAX aircraft, which was involved in 2 deadly crashes.
President Trump will participate in the swearing in of the Secretary of Energy before hosting a Hanukkah reception at the White House.
And the 20 in 2020 will be unveiled in Times Square ahead of the New Year's Eve celebration to be held there in just under 3 weeks. The 7-foot-tall numerals will be unloaded and brought onto the streets for a public lighting.
Plus, don't forget to tune into the debrief for an update on all our top stories in the briefing room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics.
That brings us to our question of the day. What are your plans for New Year's Eve?
Are you going to watch the ball drop? What are you going to do? You're going to sleep on the couch?
Tell us in the comments.
You're going to eat a lot?
Tweet us at ABC News Live. What are you going to be doing?
I will be right here, working.
I'm going to be a bridesmaid in a friend's wedding.
Oh, so I've been to one wedding on New Year's Eve. And at first I was like, I don't know about it, but I had a lot of fun. It was a good time. Yep.
Did you?
Mm-hmm. I did.
You know, I hope I feel that way in the end, too.
Especially all that money you paid on bridesmaid stuff.
Who are you telling? Finally from us this morning, Baby Yoda wants you to buckle up. This Mississippi road sign reminds us small children, just like that little Baby Yoda, need to be in a car seat. Baby Yoda uses the Force, but still needs a car seat.
You know, you got to use Baby Yoda. I was said Ford. Sing about people in Fords, I guess. You have to use Baby Yoda as a force for good.
Yes.
So they are doing that. Buckle up your kids, folks.
Give your kids a chance. That's it from us on this Wednesday.
Thanks for giving us a chance. We'll see you tomorrow.